And I would invite anybody who is curious about these conditions to go and come out with us and visit the camps and see what they're like and get to know these people, because they are our neighbors. They are part of our community.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
All right, folks. Thank you for joining us. We have a couple local organizers here in Huntsville on the show. You may remember we've talked briefly about the homelessness situation in Huntsville. It's made the news, and this is obviously very relevant to working class people and those of us who care about workers and their livelihoods. So we wanted to talk to folks who are on the ground and are doing good work around this issue and hear from them what's actually going on, and more importantly, how can you who are listening or viewing out there, how can you get involved? How can you help this effort? So ladies, thank you so much for joining us. I think we'll just start with each of you, if you'll briefly introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your organizations. Tia, if you want to start.
All right, thank you, Adam, for having us. I'm Tia Turner, and I am co-founded a nonprofit organization here in Huntsville, Alabama called Love Huntsville. We got our start pretty much last year. We're doing a lot of voting rights stuff. And we got involved with some of our local encampments. And from there was an eviction happening at this place called Mill Street. And from there, we've been involved with the community, our unhoused neighbors, and really just advocating for policies, housing, helping with the encampment closures, moving people, building solid relationships with a lot of our folks.
Fantastic. Thank you.
So I'm Tahira Osborne. I am co-founder of Huntsville Bail Fund, which is a local bail fund that grew out of the 2020 protests that happened in the wake of George Floyd's murder here in Huntsville. Out of that effort, we have tried to situate ourselves as a fund that really is speaking up for people whose experiences often don't really make it to the media, experiences of arrest and incarceration. We happen to have one of the deadliest jails in Alabama, which probably means we have one of the deadliest jails in the nation here in Madison County. So with learning about these evictions, because we've now had, I think, 7 in the last 12 months of evictions of different encampments here in Huntsville, the response has largely been from the city, either pack up and leave right now or you're going to jail, which of course is a huge concern to us, using jail really as a replacement for acknowledging these people as our neighbors and that they do require safe sanitary housing.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's a great segue into fill us in on what's really going on right now, particularly with the Derrick Street camp, and how has the city responded?
All righty. So Derrick has been up a little over a decade. They had about, I would say, about 80 people in that specific camp. It has fluctuated now since the encampment eviction was announced by the city. It was announced back in April through the COC, and we had been trying to organize around that encampment evictions. Past encampment evictions have gone not so great. There's been people whose rights were violated due to property being destroyed, things like that. Just a lot of things that has happened in the past. So we kind of stepped in, Love Huntsville and Huntsville Bail Fund, and got some people to rally around us, like ACLU of Alabama, SPLC, the National Homelessness Law Center as well, and a lot of other amazing local nonprofits and organizations and organizers. And so from there with Derrick, it's very multifaceted, a lot of different issues pertaining to this camp. The city has said that they were closing it down because it just wasn't safe, sanitary. And, we found out that there was a local business here that actually was wanting to, she owns part of the land that the Derrick camp sits on, and she actually wanted to buy the rest of the land. And so now here we are having to close down the camp. And so the city pretty much stated, well, you know, there's someone that wants to buy it. She already owns part of it. There's nothing that we can do. And so we just jumped into action because of past experiences that we've had, like I said, with people's rights and just the whole encampment experience as far as the evictions not being handled with dignity and compassion. Tahira, you want to jump in there?
Yeah, I mean, I would just sort of add that I guess I would say that, you know, these people really are our neighbors. I think that is something that we really tend to lose when we're talking about these camps. And I would invite anybody who is curious about these conditions to go and come out with us and visit the camps and see what they're like and get to know these people, because they are our neighbors. They are part of our community. Most of them are working people. Most of these people have jobs and they're still not able to save and transition by themselves into a stable, permanent housing situation. It is so hard once you have lost your housing to get back into housing. And, you know, through these experiences, you know, unfortunately, I've also witnessed some of the fallout that happens from these evictions. They are, whether we want to admit it or not, they really are violent. To lose all of your personal possessions and have them bulldozed, to have a cop who is knifing up your tent while you're still sleeping inside of it, that's a really traumatic experience. You know, and that's not something that has to happen. That's part of why we're doing this advocacy, why we reached out to the city, why we've been trying to work with other larger organizations who have experience on these issues, is it doesn't have to happen like this. The city can have what they want, which is clean, sanitary, you know, areas, public land, keeping that safe and clean, understandable. We can do that and not traumatize these people and not send them to jail and, you know, not completely destroy any of the progress that they've made.
Right. And also provide housing.
Yeah,
so
that's a huge part of it, right?
Yeah, that's a huge part of our advocacy push, is to put a halt to encampment evictions until we implement housing. That's the big issue. We are facing a lack of affordability in housing. Mm-hmm. We are facing a housing shortage. Huntsville now is considered the #1 place to live within the United States. And with that draws so many people here because of the workforce and so many different factors. But we can't do it at the sacrifice of our unhoused neighbor. Like Tahira said, many of them have jobs. With displacing people now, you know, a lot of people either have to go find private property or, you know, things like being displaced and pushed out to the county, which we've experienced in the past. And because now they're pushed out to the county, there's no transportation because we don't have bus stops in the county. So there's so many things that just being able to easily access resources that the city has the ability to provide. When you displace people, it cuts that access off. And that is what we've really pushed for the city to halt evictions until we come up with an actual plan for housing, till we actually come up with a plan for just how they're gonna combat and try to end homelessness here within Huntsville, Alabama. We have cities and states and counties all over the country that's actually on the forefront of this issue and making it a priority. And with Huntsville, we've not made it a priority. And because of that, it causes a lot of different issues and barriers for this community.
Absolutely. And I think you touched on basically what the pressing question for me was, if the city is planning on shutting down this camp, and there's potentially 80 people living there, where would they go? Because the city, it sounds like, is not providing any alternatives and does not have a plan to provide housing. So, you know, based on your experiences and your interactions, both with the city as well as this population, what do they expect, and where do they expect these folks to go?
Well, I'll start and then I'll let Tahira go if she wants to take it. But pretty much what's happened in the past with past encampment closures, especially in October, we rallied around, tried to get the city to do a lot of things. There has been some type of structure, a little bit of structure that has happened around encampment evictions, which is getting organizations involved. Back in last March, there was no one helping with evictions. And that's why we ended up stepping up, because we had cops literally there ready to take people to jail by the 6:30 in the morning when we arrived, and they didn't have to be off the premises until 5. So now they've gotten organizations to somewhat be involved, but the practices around that, it still is at the cost of their rights, at the cost of their dignity, things of that matter. So now the city has said, well, we have organizations helping, and the solutions are either go to shelter, which is just not a valuable solution for many of our unhoused friends because of the different barriers, whether it be needing certain medications that they're prescribed by their doctors and they can't take them into the shelters here. We have situations like having the ability or needing machines to help with breathing. Last October, we had a lady that needed a machine to take into the shelter because she had COPD and she was unable to take things into shelters. And then just simply autonomy, having your autonomy taken away, phones taken away at certain times of the day. If you work at night, but the shelters close at a certain time, it's just so many different barriers. And so that's been a solution that the city has stated. They said they had 100 beds, but that just doesn't work for many people. And you also don't get the level of case management that you need. Outside of that, it's been, if you find a job or housing somewhere else at another city or something, we can give you a bus ticket and have you go there. But outside of that, there's been no solution outside of offering shelters and offering bus tickets to go somewhere else. We don't have housing, and that's something that we've been trying to push for. Tahira?
Just one other point I'd like to make is that the emergency shelter that is available in Huntsville is all religiously affiliated. You know, and which is not to say that those organizations aren't carrying out a mission that they care about and are trying to do good work. But that's not going to work for everyone. We don't have publicly supported emergency shelter in Huntsville. You know, so that is also another consideration that people who are considering shelters have to think about. Am I going to be comfortable in this environment? Am I going to feel respected in this environment? If I have a different belief system, you know, is that going to be respected? Am I going to be pressured into participating in certain services? You know, those are questions that I think people really have to grapple with, that most people are not really considering, is like, am I going to have to participate in this prayer to eat today? And that's not really something that we feel that everyone should universally have to consider.
Right, absolutely, because obviously the power dynamics there, it's just unfortunate that that's in some cases the best option being offered. And, you know, something that we believe passionately on this show is that the way you treat the least of these is a reflection of your priorities. And Tia, you mentioned earlier about Huntsville's, you know, rankings. It seems like every few weeks we get news updates where Huntsville is topping a list. We know Huntsville is the fastest growing city in the state. It's one of the wealthiest cities in the Southeast. And rather than use this potential and this great wealth and expertise that we have in this city to take care of the least of these, what I'm hearing is that the city leadership, the city establishment is determined to just get rid of the least of these.
Yeah, I think their real intention is just to disappear these people, right? Most of the previous encampments evictions have been spurred by some sort of like impression that these are a blight, right? They're visible from 565, and that's embarrassing to us. You know, people are driving by and they can see that we have an unhoused community in Huntsville, and that's embarrassing to us. So instead of actually addressing the root of that problem, which is how do we have so many chronically unsheltered people in Huntsville, we're saying, let's just disappear them. We're going to send them away. We're going to push them out onto private property. We're going to send them out into the shadows. We're going to put them in jail, but never actually offer any real solutions.
Yeah, and I would even piggyback off of Tahira. I mean, the city has grappled with, well, we're giving money to nonprofits, right? And many of our nonprofits, they're service-based, and we have a lot of great nonprofits here. But what we're seeing based on research, there has to be equal effort for city government to actually step up and step in. There's things that just nonprofits and organizations cannot do. If you're sitting, if people are going to private property, and then you have law enforcement being called by businesses and other property owners saying, we don't want this person on our property, then you have citations. And if you get a citation, you have to go to court. But if you don't have an address, you get a summons. And if you miss your summons because you don't have address, then you're once they do locate you, you're in jail. So those are things that that we've seen also within our judicial system being an increase of. And so with all those different factors, we have to take a holistic approach, which is something that we've been trying to push the city to do. You can't just give money to nonprofits that are just service-based. The research shows that does not work alone. You have to provide housing, you have to provide permanent, sustainable housing, and you also have to create just like an ecosystem that helps people get on their feet and be able to do all the things that they're gifted to do. We have so many amazing people that are our unhoused friends that, like Tahira said earlier, that work, they're gifted in art, so many amazing things, and they just need the opportunity for people to pretty much just bet on them. And that's what we've been trying to get the city to do, is implement policies and implement housing. We need housing. You can't fix the issue of homelessness without having housing. That's the critical component to all of this.
Absolutely. I mean, and this is the year 2022. We can do this, and we should do this. And I think it's so important, the work that y'all are doing individually and with your organizations. So now that we kind of have the gist of what's happening here, tell us what's coming up next, and what's on the horizon for your organizations, and most importantly for this population.
So the Derrick Street North eviction is expected to take place on Friday the 15th, so coming up quite soon. I know this is airing on Saturday, so we are holding a legal observer training at 3 p.m. You can find it on all of our Huntsville Bail Fund social media. It should be up on Love Huntsville social media by now to register. It's a totally free training put on by the National Lawyers Guild, the Alabama chapter of the National Lawyers Guild. We need legal observers there. And we're going to hopefully set up shifts with legal observers both the day before and the day of the eviction. This is a way to be a neutral third party. You are a non-participant. What your job is to watch and to observe the interactions between police and the people who are experiencing this eviction as a safeguard. We also need volunteers who are going to be able to do the packing and heavy lifting and practical moving. So Tia, can you talk about how volunteers can volunteer with Love Huntsville?
Yes, sure. So this Sunday, actually, we will be hosting we host a service day. It's every other week. We do dinners, but we also, I think what I love the most, we provide medical care as well. So we have a free clinic, our street meds, they come out and they check people, any wounds, anything that they may need in that moment. And we take this time to gather data on different things that our unhoused friends need. And so we do a lot of those service dates and really focus in on what this community needs when we're out there. So this Sunday we'll be out at Derrick Street. So if you'd like to come out and volunteer, we'll be out there at 5 p.m. this Sunday. And that'll be an opportunity to connect with us to see how you can be involved with this upcoming move, because we're going to need to all hands on deck. And we have a lot of our friends that are disabled. And so a lot of them, they can't do a lot on their own. So we'll be out there helping along with other organizations, trying to help people in as safe as possible, as with much dignity as possible, move people to where they prefer. And so if you would like to help, you can reach us on our social media handles at Love Huntsville, and let us know how you want to be a part. And also, donations always are great. Any donation that we receive goes directly to our friends, unhoused friends, through so many different services that we provide. And so you can go to Instagram at love.huntsville to click on our link tree, and you can see how to donate. You can see how to connect with us. You can send us a DM, whatever is going to be necessary. However you want to get involved, we're here.
Awesome. And so we have several opportunities for folks to get involved. Saturday the 9th, there's a legal observer training at 3 o'clock. On Sunday the 10th at 5 p.m. is a service day out at the camp run by Love Huntsville, where they're going to be doing some prep, basically. And then on Friday the 15th, there's a need for folks who can volunteer to be a witness, to bear witness to what could happen, what will happen. So some great opportunities to get involved for those of you who are interested in helping. And as a reminder, you can find Love Huntsville on social media, Huntsville Bail Fund on social media. Donations are always accepted and always appreciated, I'm very sure. Were there any other things that I did not ask that y'all wanted to share with our audience today?
I do want to say this really quick. So SPLC, they've been very involved with this move, moving forward. The last couple of things, they've been interacting with the city, and they are legally actually representing some of our unhoused friends that are in the camp, to make sure we've gone through this process called reasonable accommodations. So because we have so many of our disabled friends that are disabled, that's within Derrick North, we went and took this process to pretty much accommodate them as best we can as they are getting ready to close this camp. So although the eviction is still happening, we do have so many people that are being represented by Love Huntsville, the Huntsville Bail Fund, and SPLC to make sure that they're handled with as much care as possible. And that's a process that we've taken through the city. It's a process that we take. It's the American Disability Act, which is a legal situation that Tahir can talk a little bit more about.
Yeah, so under the Americans with Disabilities Act, these residents are entitled to reasonable accommodations because of their disabilities. That can look like they need assistance with moving and packing up and moving because they're not able to physically pack up their possessions or remove them from that property on their own. That would be considered a reasonable accommodation. Some of these people do need shelter and they do have medical equipment. So a reasonable accommodation would be to bring that equipment with them into shelter. So there are a variety of things that we're asking for. We're not just saying the city should let encampments exist for the rest of all time. What we are asking for is that the encampments that are here are held to standards, which includes the city participating in helping keep these camps sanitary and safe, and to present options that will reduce this population so that we are getting people out of these camps permanently, not just displacing them and sending them, into the four winds, but actually getting them into a stable situation. which it only benefits the economy, right? That only benefits all of us, for people to
Absolutely.
be able to be stable and maintain employment and participate in public life.
Right. It's the right thing to do. It's the smart thing to do. And Tia, Tahira, I really appreciate y'all joining us, and I appreciate the work that y'all are doing and the work your organizations are doing. So love Huntsville Bail Fund. They're doing great work. Really encourage y'all to check it out. Follow them on social media, please. If you can donate your time or your money, your energy, your encouragement, it's certainly appreciated. And we look forward to talking with y'all down the road as we can get some updates on how this eviction occurs, as well as how the legal challenges unfold, and long-term, the actual plan for how Huntsville can address homelessness in this city.
We can do it. We can do it.
Yeah, we can do it. Thank you so much, Adam, for having us in the Valley Labor Report. We really appreciate you all.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.